I'll move on to, I'll just describe a couple of things coming up before we proceed. So on the website, that's tonight. This is next week, or the 25th of August, Samadhi Part 2. We've already played Part 1, which is Maya, the illusion of the self, and this one is it's not what you think, and that's a double play of words. You don't think yourself into the highest state that the yoga people work with, and I've described it as visually and spiritually spectacular, because that's what it is. And I'm saying to all my yoga students, it's compulsory if you can make it. I know they won't. A lot of them won't. Okay, so that's next week. There's a good description of it on the website. And just for the benefit of what we've already gone through, the previous one, we went through explaining how a person is in a state, a creation of mind, and therefore cannot plead. Persona is where the word person actually comes from. It is a legal entity, a mask or a facade, created by the government from our birth registration certificate as an agent in commerce to do business with, or interface with a world which is run by other fictional entities. All statute, laws and acts apply only to persons, not the living, breathing human being. And last week we played Thomas Anderson's Straw Man Illusion, which probably went much further in depth. But for those that joined up with the Proton Mail, I'm asking people to join up with Proton Mail because it gives you a free and secure end-to-end connection with internet. And the more of us get onto that, then we can be a little bit more organised perhaps, rather than having to go onto Facebook and make everything that we're doing public all the time. And Proton Mail has got advantages because it doesn't have a clause in the terms and conditions like some of the others do, which say, if we're directed by this agency or this authority, we have to give them your details. And that's the case with the European Union can do that or impose that on other secure emails. So it's not secure at all. Anyway, Proton Mail is what I'd recommend, and those who have joined up through there, I'm emailing our original Lawful Spirit Forum document, and we've got early on in the document we've got the mass action of liability issue, which to do with smart meters, and I like this diagram where it shows different levels from a department and the person in the middle, all the way up to through the law merchant, common law and spiritual jurisdiction. It's a very good description. Alright, there you go. Yeah, there's the box there and sign in. Thank you. And of course we're promoting the Aussie speeding fines information and the Know Your Rights. You can go onto our website and click on those and have a look at their products. And in the earlier forums we went into quite a bit of detail explaining this triangle about how the person is in a state, it's a creation of mind, it's not who we are. And there's a lot of detail that we went through there, and most of that's in this document. Okay, so I'll just quickly go through there. There's other information in the document where the person here's an example, is a corporation, an artificial person, a creation of mind that is invisible and intangible and cannot plead. So when you're asked to plead guilty or not guilty, well, you say, well, how can I plead? How can a creation of mind plead? It's impossible. Anyway, there's other information in there. And a section which declares, which I've used in the court, we are the beneficiary to that estate, Your Honour, and we reserve our rights in private capacity. And you look at the prosecutor and you say, is there any objection? Of course there can't be an objection, right? And that makes the state liable, as we cannot be both beneficiary and trustee. Right? So that explains that a little bit further. But for tonight, something different. Let's look at, this is one of the meet-up groups. It's a recently formed meet-up group, waking up from the matrix. And it was instantly successful. A lot of people joined up and a lot of people went to the first meet-up. But last week it got shut down. We don't know why. I was hoping that a couple of those people were coming tonight because I took over the group. It was vacant for quite a few days. I thought, oh, well, I'll pick it up. And you know about what the waking up from the matrix is all about. It's about taking the red pill or the blue pill. And so I took over the group and I sent them all information based on what we're doing here. And I think the problem is most people on meetup are inner city. We're just too far out here for most people, but perhaps this is important stuff. I mean, some of you are travelling quite a way, aren't you? Anyway. The original founder was saying, do you feel that there has to be more to life than this? Did you know that you are the one infinite creator in a human suit exploring the polarities of a seemingly physical life? Depending on how deeply you embody this, your experience of this world will change meaning. That circumstances in your life will not only be perceived from a higher truth, but the embodying of this realisation will also mean that you can become a manifestation powerhouse, as you will truly know how the law of attraction works and ties in with discovering your true nature. And he ran a free talk, a dozen people came along, but then it was shut down. He vacated the space and we don't know why. And so I took it over and I put this this meet-up group, which I announced to the 100 members that joined up. And I did get some response. Looks like they're not here, but anyway, it doesn't matter. And it's similar to what I've already shown you, and I'd like to present this little quote, which is very relevant to what we can explore tonight. Old energy does not surrender, ever. It simply dies hard and slow. And that's from Cryon, the entity that's channeled a lot of these books. That makes a lot of sense to me. There's no way they're going to stop their campaigns against us, right? And so if we're fighting them, we're actually giving them more energy. This is something that I was telling the McDonald's, or the people that were trying to stop the McDonald's being built in Tacoma, when they were giving lots of bad publicity on McDonald's, right? But I said to them, well, you're still giving them publicity. It doesn't matter whether it's good or bad. You're still telling both sides, right? And it's not going to be effective. But I don't think they wanted to hear that. I think I suggested perhaps you should be going after the people that have caused this mess, and that might be some of the authorities. You can imagine who they are. But anyway, so the way we're recommending to transform the old energy into new energy, which is precisely what this book's about, written in 2012, 2013, is to put your energy into something new to make the old system irrelevant. That makes sense? Okay, cool. And I'll just go through a little bit of what I introduce people with. I'm saying if you are happy with the circumstances of your life and the way the world is, then read no further and click delete. But if you're like myself and others on a quest for freedom, read on. And lots of people are happy with the circumstances of their life, or they're just not aware that these things are going on in the background. Anyway, hopefully it's not too late. It won't become too late for them once they realise that a lot of our freedoms are being taken away if we're not careful. I'll just quickly go through a little bit of this. I'm expressing gratitude for the original founder of this group posing a law of attraction and higher awareness scenario. And unfortunately, or fortunately for that matter, there is no easy fix for the easy life. As at a higher level, we've already pre-chosen the events and the who, the what, the where and the when of our lives. Now, there are people which will have a lot of trouble accepting that idea. Right? You mean our life is pre-planned? Does anybody disagree with that idea? That our lives are pre-planned? Yeah. They're pre-planned. The higher self, your own higher self, has chosen a pathway, and there's lessons and events on the way, and you actually choose the props of your life. You actually choose who you're going to be interacting with, and as far as I'm concerned, and through divinations, Spirit chose this place for us to do what we're doing now. Yeah. So that might be hard for people to accept, but this is knowledge that I've been working with for 40 years, and that's the information that I was given. Anyway, could be wrong, who knows? So the events are pre-chosen, the who, the what, where and when are going to happen anyway. And rather than be victimised by what we've pre-chosen, they can instead be regarded as the grandest and the greatest opportunity for evolution and growth. And so you can welcome those events, right? You can welcome them with gratitudes and grace in collaboration with the Spirit. A little bit of explanation there. The circumstances of our lives, according to a lot of the metaphysical information, it's the perfect conditions for our growth, for our evolution. Right? So even all the bad stuff is there because we've chosen it at some level. Right? And perhaps we're putting out negative energy, and of course the negative energy is going to come back at us. Right? One of the good examples is if you want something, then you don't realise how powerful you are. The universe gives you the experience of wanting, and so you never get it. Does that make sense? So some of you might have heard that before. No? Anybody heard it before?
Quantum entanglement.
Sorry?
Quantum entanglement.
Quantum entanglement.
At distance.
Okay.
Yeah, thoughts or energies, yeah. So whatever you want, the entire universe sets itself for you to get it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. everything that you do with gratitudes, and you can do it in advance, right? So even if you don't have something, seek and you shall find, ask and you shall be given. Just try it. You've got nothing to lose, right? And then you're putting out an energy which will be reflected, will come back to you. I've said here, blissing out is not enough, because a lot of people just think, oh, if I just meditate, everything will be all right. And you know, meditation is great. It brings. Well, this is the quote that I got from a divination reading. Meditation brings peace, but it does not remove the necessity for choice and action from the I Ching. In other words, the events are going to happen anyway, and it's your attitude to those events which counts. That's your free will. It's limited to that. Oh, yes, free will applies to soul awareness, whereas the personality free will, you know, the conscious free will, is limited to attitudes only. And here's a quote from the shaman sorcerer information. Decisions are beyond the realms of understanding. All we do is acquiesce. Decision is limited to either acting impeccably or to act like a nincompoop. And that's from Tales of Power. Again, that can be difficult for people to accept. The choices that we make are very limited because we're being guided. Right? Our soul journey has already been decided, and you can have leeway one way or the other. And it's a little bit like you've planned your life out in a pencil lines, and you can rub things out and you can take a different path and all that sort of thing. But yourself, your higher self, will be pushing you back onto that path as much as possible. You've got to be careful, because if you get too far off the path, then the reason for your existence in this incarnation no longer applies, and your life can be terminated. Yeah, but it's all by choice, higher choice, put it that way. Yeah, the personality level may not be aware of that. Yeah. And you can either have an attitude of, okay, well, bring it on. You know, let's have a go at these challenges as opportunities, or you can be an absolute blithering idiot and become a victim of what's happening instead. Right? In the absolute realm, there is no time, and you can choose either one way or the other. Gratitude, or you can be a nincompoop, and you can do that for almost forever if you choose. But sooner or later, you're going to get enough information from spirit or the guidance mechanism to say it's probably best to change the way I'm doing things. You know, you've heard about people getting into relationships over and over again, and they get into abusive relationships over and over again. And it's only when they change does the circumstances of their lives change, and there's no need to attract that abusive relationship anymore. Yeah? So spirit has infinite patience, although we are constantly bombarded with suggestions to follow. And I like this quote from the Telos information, the Telos books, which I can tell you more about. When you resist what is best for your pathway, your soul will simply allow you to have your own way until you can't stand it anymore. You like that one? Yeah, I like that one. I think that's terrific. And I think I've been down that path numbers of times, you know, can't stand this anymore. So you just change your pathway and things start to get a little bit better.
When you keep repeating things.
Sorry?
When you keep repeating things.
Yeah.
Like a bad relationship. You didn't learn from the last
Right.
one,
Yeah.
so you've got to go through it again.
That's right.
You didn't learn from that one. Okay, so you've got to go through it again.
And that can either be in this lifetime or in subsequent
It's your
lifetimes.
choice.
Yeah, anyway. Remedies include do not believe what you observe, but observe what you believe. All right, so what I'm saying there is even though reality seems real, consider that it's an illusion, but actually it's a very powerful illusion because if you don't know the ground rules of reality, then it can hurt like hell, can't it? You know, we can still go through a lot of suffering if we don't go with our soul's agenda. Let's put it that way. And a lot of that is we think it's real, but maybe it's not. And instead of believing what we're observing out there with our senses, you can turn it around and look at your beliefs. Perhaps your beliefs are limiting you, and that's the way I work with. You know, I've got a pretty powerful yoga practice here, but I don't necessarily call myself a yogi because it feels limiting. Right? I don't want to tie myself into any denomination, and that's the purpose of this place, Magpie House. It's non-denominational, or you could say it's the opposite, all denominational. It accepts all ideas and all faiths and all that. Because what I see is there's lots and lots of faiths, and lots and lots of religions and spiritual practices and so forth. And a lot of them are saying this is the only way. And that divides us. It does not unite us. You agree with that? Yeah? Okay, cool. Oh yeah, another very effective means of blissing out has its drawbacks. And this is from the shaman sorcerer information as well. And it's a path that many take. I'll just read it out. Power plants are an excellent way to stop the internal dialogue that cause untold damage to the body. Now, the internal dialogue is what solidifies as our reality. And when you think about it, we're talking to ourselves all the time, aren't we? Yeah. And in order to quieten the internal dialogue, you can do various practices like the yoga, or the stuff that I also teach is the magical classes. This stuff over here, and that's from the shaman sorcery world. Of course, yoga is also a shaman practice. There you go. And so power plants are a way to stop the internal dialogue, and that allows you to look past the illusion of reality. I mean, when you take a hallucinogen, you see things that other people don't see. And is that real, or is it just imagination? Well, maybe it's real when you do go down that path.
George, you keep talking about it, maybe you should take some.
Sorry?
You keep talking about them, why don't you take some?
Yeah. Well, maybe I did in other lives, who knows? But it's not recommended by the shaman sorcerers because it can do damage to not just the body but also to the psyche, and it can take lifetimes to recover from that. I'm not saying don't use it, absolutely, because it can be a very powerful therapeutic tool, and there are shamans that use those substances when they need to. We could also apply it to this idea to something more accepted in society, and that's alcohol. That's a means of blissing out too, isn't it? And drinking alcohol in excess is not necessarily great for our awareness. It's actually going the other way. Yeah. The path of freedom is instead sobriety, and you know what sobriety is? It's being sober. And a quote from the Magical Passes information is, to navigate in a genuine way in the unknown, a sorcerer, that's what they call themselves, has to be extremely sober, cautious, skillful, and superb physical condition. Right? So we need to get our bodies in shape too. Right? Because then the mental processes are going to work better as well. Blissing out is nothing more than the path of indulgence, not the path of freedom that we all desire. After all, again from the shaman sorcerer information, there are no diseases, there is only indulging. So you look at all the diseases in society, it's all coming from indulgence. Right? And we seem to be a very indulgent society, and that's why we're so sick. That's why we're trapped in this mess. We need to get out of that indulgence mode. Hence the purpose of this Lawful Spirit Forum. This waking up from the matrix, not shown there, was originally started in St Kilda. So I'm saying, where are we? We're in Upway, and if it's too far, then so be it. And else make any suggestions, and we'll bring it to you, perhaps.
What's in St Kilda?
Sorry?
It's not in St Kilda.
No, I'll show you the original. Oh no, that's not it. Uh-oh. What have I done here? Oh right, that's Seek the Truth Melbourne. That used to be Truth Seekers. But it's taken on a different direction, and it doesn't seem to be Truth Seekers anymore. But anyway, it's another Matrix one. Let me go back to waking up from the Matrix. There it is. Yeah, the red pill and the blue pill. I took it over last week because it was vacated. It was vacant for quite a few days anyway. If you do not know your rights, you have none, is the motto of Know Your Rights group, and it applies in a world of strife and corruption. In Australia, common or natural law, which is God's law, is being replaced by statute man-made law. Yet it's the perfect time to awaken, according to a lot of the stuff that we work with, the metaphysical stuff, Conversations with God, book number 4, which is only published last year. It's called Awaken the Species. And according to Awaken the Species, a see, hear, speak no evil attitude does not work. Because we interact with a lot of spiritual people, but when I raise these controversial issues, a lot of them don't want to know. Right? And that to me is not the way to transform the way we are. They remove themselves from that, and I lose that support.
There's a simpler way of saying it, George. They're full of shit.
We've recorded that.
That's all right. Someone said that. Full of shit.
They believe that any changes for the books.
So, well, you've got to love them love them regardless, but sticking our heads in the sand doesn't work. And I can back that up with some of the very latest information from the Conversations with God series. Yeah? It also says we cannot change things unless we know what it is we want to change. So we have to get together and talk about these things and see what needs to be changed. Otherwise we don't have... Oh yeah, it does also says we cannot solve problems we don't know about. And I've put one of the recommendations from those books into this little announcement about technology, because it lists 16 different items of how an awakened species lives. And we can actually go to that place, right? Once we start to awaken, we will start doing all those elements that are recommended in those books. And this one, particular one, is for technology. An awakened species creates a balance between technology and cosmology, between machines and nature. Humans in an unawakened state do not. It's suggesting that we're in a very dangerous time because we're evolving very rapidly right now. But a lot of the advancement we're going through now is purely technological, and that's dangerous because if you don't have spiritual involvement as well, that technology is being used to control us. Yeah, it's surveillance is going pretty rife, and not too long ago I got information about social credit, which they've already started in China, and it'll go worldwide. And what social credit is, all the information that they're gathering about everyone gets stored in a database, and if you want to do anything in life, like get a job or get or go shopping or draw money out of the bank, it's going to be referred through that social credit system, and if you don't have good social credit, you won't be able to do a lot of those things.
We already have that in a lot of online communities.
Yeah, it's already happening.
But the difference is that those online communities set their own arbiters as to what constitutes good behaviour and poor behaviour, and they're constrained to those particular fora. Mm-hmm. And the problem with this, though, is that this is to be applied generally to everyone across the whole society, and in a sense, depending on how you look at the degree to which we can have control over our governments, those are going to be imposed upon us. Right? Yeah. That's the problem. If it was democratised, or truly democratised, then it would mean that we would have a lot more input into what constitutes social credit. Because my idea as to what constitutes social credit and somebody else's idea may differ. And in effect, we could potentially, it could be a matter of contention, because everybody would get to vote as they see fit, not according to as the government sees fit. Yeah, technology is also being used for facial recognition and with cameras, and they will be installed everywhere, and with that technology they can instantly pick up who you are, wherever you are. So that's the danger of technology advancing way beyond spirituality. According to the same information, many humanities evolved, reach this point that we're at now, and some of them evolve spiritually, some of them evolve technologically, some of them a bit of both, and it's suggesting a bit of both is better, right? Because then you're not using the technology to weaponize things. A little bit of good news is, though, that according to the Cryon information,
the stem cell technology, which is being used now, will not be released to humanity unless there is enough light in the world. And according to Cryon, yes, there is. It's happening now. You know, we're doing stuff which is considered medically impossible now, and that's the way it's going. Though that knowledge and that information is now accessible, and that's what I wanted to say. We could reach the point where we become so healthy that we don't need the medical system anymore. We don't need Big Pharma anymore. That's also part of the second book from Cryon, that Big Pharma is on the way to ending its reign. It'll collapse because people are realising that they are there to exploit the population, not necessarily help them.
Would it be possible that the energy from technology be destructive, they interfere in our energy, our spiritual energy?
Spiritual energy?
Yeah, the energy from technology, they interfere in the our
Well, the quote mentions a balance between technology and cosmology. With technology, we'll be able to advance to a point where we can go to the stars and back, right? But it's a good idea to have a spiritual basis of that.
Yeah, but I was thinking that like if we unfold ourselves and be able to perceive all the dimensions that are not visible to us, without technology, we can travel at the speed of light.
Without technology?
Yeah, like if we were, in theory, be able
Well,
to...
you can travel two ways. You can astral travel, and you can go anywhere you like, anywhere in the universe. You can actually travel through the sun and all that sort of thing, right? But physically, may not be a good idea, right? However, technology will give us the capability for transporting our bodies across the galaxy. Okay? But we won't be given the keys to that until we've grown up a little bit, until we've evolved as a species. And I don't think we're quite ready. You know, we've heard about the idea of free energy, right? Why haven't we got it? Well, maybe we're not ready for it. You know, there's lots of people running around saying they've got the free energy device for the world, but maybe it's a little bit, it's being kept out of our grasp because people could use that power as a weapon.
It's already been used as a weapon by the powers that be.
There are certain, from what I understand, there are certain limits. They will prevent those things happening. There's a number of examples going back into the 1950s where they were experimenting with putting needles in space. Is that right? Not in the 1950s. Didn't have rockets then. Must have been 60s.
Mm-hmm. Whatever, yeah.
They were putting needles in space as an experiment to reflect the sun's light back out to space or something. And according to the information, those needles disappeared, didn't they? And where did they go? They didn't know. So they did it again. They put rockets up and they launched these needles in space again. They're crazy experiments because they don't know the consequences of this.
So I was wondering, why did they do it, and what did they think that was going to happen? Like,
As far as I can remember, they were going to use it as a concentration to prevent war around the world. You know, so they could target certain countries because they were going to circumference the whole world with these needles, which like the laser beams or something, I don't know. And they disappeared.
It becomes a mirror.
Yes,
that's
right. Yeah.
And so they did it again, and again they disappeared.
Yeah.
So they didn't do it again.
So it's like some higher power is stopping us from doing this pretty stupid things.
They
because
didn't float out to space because there's a point where they just stay in orbit. according to in orbit where they don't go out or they don't come down.
Yeah, according to the information, the higher races, higher dimensional beings, are not allowed to interfere with our free will. Right? So if we want to destroy ourselves, we can. We can make that choice. They're not allowed to interfere, but if a rampant group is doing something which would destroy all life on the planet, they will prevent that. Right?
And in answer to, I'm sorry, this lady's name here.
Anita.
Yeah. In answer to that, when she was asking about technology, I think technology depends on the energy we put into it. So if we've got the energy of war, well then we'll make it for war. If we've got the energy for, like, to help mankind, then we'll make technology to help mankind instead of against mankind. So it depends, and that's the energy comes from your spirituality.
Yeah.
Right. So you can have technology and spirituality, but if you have technology without it, it's not going to be for the good of mankind, it's going to be for dominance.
Yeah, we perpetuate a nightmare. That's what we end up doing.
Yeah.
A nightmare of control. You can't do anything without being controlled by the computers or whatever else, monitoring devices, all that. You become a slave of the state, basically.